everybody. Welcome to another episode of Compared to What, brought to you by the Compete Network. I'm joined today by Federico Jorge, founder of StackAgainst. Hey, Federico, welcome. Thanks for joining us again.
Hey, Jason. Yeah.
I'm excited for this episode today because if you've tuned into any of the previous episodes, this series is all about showing you great examples of competitive comparison pages, what to do, what not to do, best practices, all of that. And every episode we show you real examples. We figured at least one of these episodes, what we wanted to do was break down the process, because Federico's company, this is what they do. They build these types of pages for their customers. Wanted to break down the process and show a little bit behind the curtain of how you actually go about creating these pages so that anyone watching can hopefully steal some of this and go and do their own. So Federico has prepared this presentation today, some resources, a couple, at least one really interesting tool that I'm excited for him to show. And so, yeah, hopefully you'll walk away from this episode with a good understanding of how to go about this type of project within your company. Does that sound right, Federico?
That sounds exactly right. Hey, Jason. Hey, everyone. And we build these pages day in and day out. And because we do that, we need to come up with a very solid process to take us from A to Z and being consistent in our delivery. And thankfully, we can now show you a step-by-step of how that process looks like and how we do this. We build comparison pages that steal leads from your competitors. So whenever somebody is researching your competitors, they're going online, they're researching them, your page appears and wins them to your side.
Nice. I like that, stealing leads. All right, let's do it.
Awesome. So let's get right to it. So first of all, a little bit of context. What are comparison pages? If this is the first episode you see, if you're not too much into comparison pages yet, basically comparison pages are an answer to frustrated customers. They're either switching from a competitor or they're very, very confused because they need to make a purchasing decision right now and they don't know how you look like versus them, how they look like versus the others. So it's all a very crowded market out there, and you have to tell people how you're different and why they should choose you. So, and essentially that is what the goal of your comparison page should be. That is the what of the comparison page. Tell me how you're different from the rest of my options so I can make a better decision when I need to buy. And then where do they fit? Where do the comparison pages fit in your funnel? They are a very bottom of the funnel asset. These are marketing assets and sales assets for people that are very close to making a decision. And we need to take that into account throughout the process because chances are users that are coming to your comparison pages are going to be way more educated than somebody that is just pain or problem aware, right? So you can skip a lot of the education side of things and marketing and just go straight for answering that final question, which is how are you different from the rest and why should I choose you? And then we're going to talk about how you can use these comparison pages at some point, but basically SEO, sales, and PPC are kind of like the main strategies that you want to use for your comparison pages. Now, these are the 4 stages that we use to break down our process. This is the high-level view. We have 4 different stages. Research, which is what we're going to be covering today, copywriting, design, and distribution, right? The first one is the research and how do you find an angle versus each competitor. And the first thing that you want to do when you're starting your research in terms of comparison pages is choosing your competitors, right? I don't know your space, but chances are you don't have 2 or 3 competitors. Chances are it's 2022, so chances are you have tens of competitors, if not hundreds of competitors, right? So you can't go against all of them at once. It would be too much of a task. So you gotta break it down into smaller challenges. How many pages do you think you can do at once? Do you want to do just one against a big competitor that you want to get visibility around? Do you want to do 3? Do you want to do 5, 10? How many of those do you want to do? And depending on that answer, you're going to have to choose because you can't target all of them at once, right? So how do you choose?
It's like an exercise of prioritization, right? Like at this point, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Determining who you could and then figuring out, all right, who are our top whatever. And how do you when people who come in and talk to you, do they typically, is it based on how much resources they have to create these pages, or do they typically start with top 3 or just their top 1? Just curious.
That's a great question. Our biggest package, not our biggest, our most popular package is 3 pages. So most clients end up doing 3 pages at once. I don't know exactly why, but it's kind of like that magic number. But then we had clients coming to us doing one, and then once they saw how we work, they wanted to do 10 more. So I think the biggest package we've done at once is 10 pages. But I would say it depends on your resources.
Mm-hmm.
If that means outsourcing that, it probably would be your budget. If you're outsourcing that to someone like us, to a freelancer, I don't know. And if you're doing that internally, it probably has to do with how much time availability your team has.
I think a good thing to do here too, like for anyone who does anything like a threat analysis, like look at your win rates,
Mm-hmm.
look at what competitors are showing up on deals, right? And so then you can really like spot, okay, for your competitors who are, showing up on a lot of opportunities and a lot of deals, and your win rate, for the most part, I'd probably prioritize the ones who are showing up on the most deals. But then if you have to prioritize then again, and even kind of wean it down a little bit more, then look at ones who your win rate is not as strong against or anything like that. But I think at this point too, you're also trying to capture leads. So I guess it depends on which ones are being searched for the most. I don't know. Federico, you tell me, because at this point you are using it as a lead capture tool. You're trying to catch people who are at the bottom of their funnel and who are potentially searching for your competitor too. So I guess there's that angle to it as well.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the great thing about these comparison pages is that they do the lead gen for you, and then they also close the sales, which is really interesting. And what you said about targeting competitors that always come up on competitive deals, that is right. And then I would also prioritize the ones that come out the most and that you're winning against the most, because you want to have your comparison page as a way to scale that sales effort. So instead of people going to booking demos with you or talking to sales and being and winning the deal during the sales conversation, you're trying to scale that and hopefully winning those deals on the page instead of having to talk to those prospects.
Okay.
And then you're right. The other angle is the lead generation. So how do you show up when somebody's researching not you but other competitors, right? So a very, very important side of this is the SEO angle. So you wanna see how certain competitive keywords are ranking, so you know which ones to prioritize. And this is just a quick example, but let's assume our client is Asana, right? And they're going to be targeting companies like Monday, Trello, ClickUp, and a bunch more, right? Hundreds more. So by throwing all those competitors in this report, we can see right away at a glance, right, which one of these keywords present a bigger opportunity. So right away, number one, by a very clear margin, Asana versus Monday takes 90,000 searches a month. So that is a crazy volume for a competitive keyword. And that would immediately, Asana is a big company. They have a lot of domain authority. So they would absolutely want to target that keyword. And then you see a few other keywords here. And the great thing is that you can prioritize them by search volume really quick. And the biggest opportunities are going to surface. So for example, this one, Trello Alternative, sounds like a great one to target with a comparison page. And for this stage, I want to show you something cool that we're working on. And it's this competitive keyword research. So
this is a tool you've created, eh?
Yes, exactly. This is a tool we're creating. We're still finalizing how it's going to look like, but we're going to be launching this soon for free for anybody that wants to get a quick idea on the SEO opportunities in terms of comparison pages. So I don't know, do you want to come up with an example, something that we can try here in order to take a look at competitive keywords?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go with like email software. So put in like MailChimp.
Okay, cool. So MailChimp is going to be, let's say, I don't know, MailerLite is going to be our client, right? Or your company.
Okay.
So then you put the competitors here. So it's going to be MailChimp. Who else do we want to do? We can do, Klaviyo, perfect. We can do Constant contact, right?
Yep.
And you can write it like that, or you can write the two words together, because we don't know how people are searching for these keywords. So you want to cover both instances. And then, I don't know, get response, and we can try it like that. So get response, like this.
So you're typing
and then
in, you're basically putting in all the possible competitors you can think of. The more the better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can add 10, you can add 100, whatever you want. And then you hit submit here, and you're going to get a CSV file or something like that with this report. But right now, this is how it looks like. So let me go to MailerLite, we said, right?
Yep.
So let me refresh here. It should come up. Okay, here we go. MailerLite. I'm going to open this report here. And it's just as easy as going to search volume. The filters are already there. So you sort say to E, and you immediately see how your opportunities look like. And you have some keywords here, like MailChimp pricing or MailChimp price, which are not necessarily a great fit for a comparison page, but they're great for PPC. And you have this column here telling you the best strategy for that keyword. So you want to bid for those keywords in your campaigns, but maybe you can skip adding or targeting that keyword with your comparison pages. The one that I would definitely target are these, alternative to MailChimp, right? This one. So let me highlight this real quick. MailChimp alternatives, all of these are great.
So if I was going through and I was using this tool, and we were trying to say, which competitive comparison page should we start with? From a pure lead gen perspective, it seems like, okay, we should start with MailChimp first. And then we should also, those ones you're highlighting in orange are the ones that maybe we should try to rank from an SEO perspective. Whereas for pricing, the top two queries, we want to make sure that we're potentially investing in the PPC ads so that we could drive people to those the competitive comparison page that way.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then you have even more insights. You can go for the general MailChimp alternative keyword and target that. But you also see that MailerLite versus MailChimp has a lot of volume too. So that's really interesting. That tells you right away that there's a lot of people comparing those two different products. So maybe you want to target that. If this keyword is too competitive for you right now, maybe you want to target this because it still has enough volume, and it shows people with even a higher intent because they want to make their decision based on you versus them and that alone, right? And then you have even more insights. This one, for example, free alternatives to MailChimp. Now we add the extra layer of free. And if your product is free and MailChimp doesn't have a free product or plan, or like right now, MailChimp is going through this whole turmoil because they updated their free plan and a lot of people are complaining. So that would be a very interesting keyword to target right now if your product has a free alternative.
Interesting. Okay.
And then you see Constant Contact as the number 2 competitor that I would target. And this is how you use these reports.
That's awesome. So I know you're working on this, but by the time that we actually air this episode, chances are a good chance this will be live. So where do people go to find it? Yeah,
great. They can go to StackAgainst.com/CKR, which is competitive keyword research. And it's going to be hosted there. And you're going to be able to do this for free, research as many competitors as you want, and get your report right away.
That's awesome. Love that.
Great. So how do you keep working on choosing your competitors? You have to consider your branding angle, right? Because not every brand is going to want to compare themselves to every competitor out there. It depends on your story as well, your strengths, your weaknesses, and basically what leadership is trying to, like the story that leadership is trying to tell. And I have this quick example. This is a project that we completed some time ago. Process Kit as being the Asana alternative. And why did they choose to go against Asana? Because they're not apples to apples. They're not the same product. They are for project management, but they are kind of like a sub-product for companies that use processes and SOPs, right? But they wanted to target Asana, first of all, because of the SEO approach, because there's a lot of opportunity there, but also because they wanted to say to all the people that just the knee-jerk reaction is, oh, project management, Asana. They wanted to educate them that there's a different way. If you're relying on processes, there's a different way to manage your projects, that it doesn't necessarily have to be Asana. There's this other alternative, and it looks different, and it's built just for you.
It's a good like reminder for anyone who's looking at doing these types of pages too, is that you're not necessarily just doing your direct competitors. You could create these types of pages. In this case here, you're thinking about competing alternatives, which could call it status quo, but if someone's doing this today without a dedicated tool, they're probably using their task management tool like Asana to build out their internal like processes and recurring tasks. So it's like it's a cool example there of where Process Kit is building a comparison page, but not for a typical direct competitor.
Yes,
at least
exactly.
That's the way I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, because you could say they should be going against Process Street, for example, which is a very similar product, but that's not the strategy working on this page.
Cool.
Okay, so now that you know which competitors you want to go against, you need to find your competitive angles, right? And we can talk all day about positioning. Everybody is going to have a different way to define positioning and how to get to your ideal positioning. But for these kind of pages, we've summarized your desired positioning as a combination of three things. Something that you're great at. It needs to be a product strength. Something that users care about. It needs to be relevant to them. You can't be selling benefits that nobody cares about. And it needs to be something your competitors can match. Either because they don't have it and you have like a clear feature gap there, you come up with an interesting innovation, or because they might have it, they might not do it entirely the same as you, or maybe they're not focusing on that. They don't want to talk about that for whatever reason, and there's a gap there that you can use. Okay? And how do you source the intel or the insights that you need to get to this desired positioning, right? And we search in four different places. Your own product, this is pretty straightforward. You got to know your strengths and weaknesses. Competitive intelligence, intel, anything related to sales calls, win-loss analysis, chat logs, communities. You can probably talk more about this, Jason. I don't know if I'm missing something else here as far as CI.
Well, of course, yeah. There's obviously a lot in terms of like places you can collect intel. I like the call it a couple of things I really like. Like I love the idea of sales calls, or even just capturing it. Like, if you're about to build out a competitive comparison page, not only just going to like Gong and listening to calls, although that's one really great way to do it, but you also just want to have conversations with your sales team. So luckily, like if you're someone who is running your competitive program within your company, you likely already know this positioning. This is a good exercise to go through to build out your competitive comparison page, but typically you kind of have a process for keeping on top of the intel you're hearing from sales calls, intel that's being shared through your sales team through something like Slack, or even just, Slack, or even just conversations with your sales team. Win-loss is great. I like the idea of chat logs and community. So yeah, there's tons of sources of intel that'll go into this, but I like the idea of, if you're going to take on a project for creating this type of comparison page, it's a good point to go out and do some of that research too. And I think most of the research I would think that you'll do for this is probably going to be internal, because you're internal with your sales team. But I also really like the idea of like communities or chat logs, G2 for reviews, things like that. So yeah.
Cool. And you mentioned reviews. We covered that too. And obviously your competitor marketing, right? You want to know which messages they prioritize, which ones they avoid, so you can know where you can go after them. And then some examples, right? From your own product. This is an example from a community building platform, the all-in-one community platform. That's kind of like the positioning that they wanted to create. Nobody else was talking about this, at least at this point. So that's the angle that they came up with. And this is an example. You're going to see how it kind of like the comparison starts shaping up as we go through this example, right? So your own product, then you have communities, right? This is a Reddit thread. I just took a screenshot. I didn't edit anything. This one had a bunch of comments down below. People saying, "Oh, I love Circle because of that. I love Mighty Networks because of that. I love Kajabi because whatever." But this is a question that this person was asking, an academic avocado. Is there an all-in-one platform you could recommend to create both the courses and manage the community, right? So you can start seeing the trend just by looking at two very simple examples. I don't know if Circle came up with this.
I was going to say, the thing I love about like the community angle and going to that is, and I think that's where when you're building out like a battle card or building out a comparison page, like you're really trying to figure out positioning, and it's sometimes different than the ongoing, always on daily process of monitoring and tracking competitive intelligence. But I love the idea here is when you're looking for like positioning, look for the way normal people and customers describe it. And so that's why like reviews, communities, for example, are like a great source of, potential copy and messaging you put on your page.
Yeah, we use this a lot, not just for coming up with the strategy, but also voice of the customer. We grab so many of these little quips and use it on the page, not just for the testimonial, but just stealing words from the customer mouth. It's always a good idea.
Love it.
And then you have your competitors' marketing. We're not gonna name anyone here, but this competitor made a lot of emphasis on alumni networks, right? Capture new business leads, accelerate your recruitment, and manage your brand, but all related to building communities around your schools and your alumni, right? And then this is a G2 review, an example, and this is a review that we got for this particular competitor, and it talks exactly about that. And you don't even have to go and find all the 1-star or 2-star reviews. You don't want to just focus on the negatives, even the ones that positively rate these competitors. They still have something insightful to say about the shortcomings or stuff that they would prefer to be different in the product. And actually, I would put that as a high priority. If anybody's giving this product 4 stars or 5 stars, but still has something to complain, that probably is going to be more relevant for this research. So here they're talking about great community platform, but still very focused on school/academy, right? Just by looking at that, the angle started appearing, and we ended up doing a comparison page here for kind of like your community tool for brands and businesses that is not focused just on networking and alumni networks.
Right on.
Those weren't the exact words, but kind of like the strategy was around that. Yeah. And then once you have all of these, now your process for research is going to be different than ours, absolutely, and that makes sense. But what we usually do is we try to capture on all of these reviews and stuff that we get from online communities and so on, we try to capture these 3 topics: pain points, objections, and benefit. Anything that sounds like a pain point, we capture an objection, we capture that, and a benefit. And then we start categorizing all these pain points, objections, and benefits. And that kind of like surfaces the top level or priority messaging that we're going to go after. And this is kind of like across all competitors. Then we splice this information to take a look at pain points, objections, and benefits for specific competitors. And that's when it all appears, right? You start seeing the main objections that people have against a particular competitor, and then you can go back to this, right? You know your strengths, you know what users care about because you've done all this research, and you have the priority, pain point, objection, and benefit from them, and you know where your competitors are lacking because, again, you can take a look at those specific competitors.
So if you go back,
and that's how you come up.
Yeah, if you go back to this here, so the pain points are related to the pain points or the challenges that people seem to have with competing solutions. Is that the idea? It's not the broader sense of pain points that any solution is solving. It's like the pains they have with that existing competitor.
No, in this case, pain points are related to the struggles that they have in their lives or at their jobs that they need to solve with a product in this space. And the objections are related to products.
Okay. Objections are the things they don't like about their competitor.
Yeah. We define objections as the reason why they wouldn't buy from this competitor.
Got it. Okay. And then the benefits
And then
are benefits always the way you think about these three things? Are the benefits things that are unique, like unique benefits to your solution versus a competitor?
no, actually, this is the first research that we conduct. It's across all competitors,
Okay.
and then we play with the data to look at specific competitors. But these categories that you're seeing here, this is all across different competitors.
Okay. So the benefits are related to things people like or the reasons why they would buy your competitors.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. The
Good. Good.
impact or the value that they get from products in this space.
Got it. Okay.
Cool. So now you you need to define your winning narrative. You know which competitors you're going to go against. You've done all the research to understand where the gaps are and where your strengths are. So now you have to sit down and just write it. It's as simple as writing like a single sentence that defines we are the alternative to X that does XYZ or that is built for XYZ. It depends on all the research that you conducted, but it's time to write it down, and that's going to be your narrative or your angle for your comparison page. And sorry, you need to do keep in mind two things. You need to attack relevant gaps that your competitors are leaving open. And when I say relevant, I really stress that because it's not just going after something your competitor doesn't have. It needs to be something your customers care about.
Right.
Otherwise, it's not going to be big enough for them to buy from you. And then you want to be flexible enough to kind of like reshape your narrative versus different competitors. It needs to be on brand because you don't want to talk about stuff that is not part of your top level messaging, but you can be you can be flexible. Sorry, and maybe it fits. If that fits your brand, you can talk about being affordable versus one competitor because they might be the enterprise solution, and then you can talk about I don't know a specific feature that you have that this other product doesn't have because they are a smaller competitor, a younger competitor, and they're still catching up in terms of features. So as long as it stays on brand, you can mold, and actually you should mold your different narratives for different competitors because if all your pages have the same angle and they all just look like the same template where you replace the competitor name, then you're doing something wrong.
So I can't just duplicate my first page and create 10 of the same ones with different logos? Damn. All right.
Doesn't work like that. It would be really easy. We would be the first ones to be doing that, but it doesn't work like that, I'm afraid.
Makes sense.
And then the final slide for today, how do you go from research to copywriting, which is the next stage? The brief. And you gotta spend time building a brief that sets your writing team for success. It could be your internal team. It could be someone you are outsourced this to. We create these briefs for our team when we're writing these comparison pages. And not only like this is our suggested structure. It includes the strategy, right? The angle for the page, and also the outline, kind of like block by block, all the sections that we want to include on this comparison page. But not just that, you have to give your writers your raw voice of the customer research so they can go read through that research, capture stuff that they want to use for their page, capture testimonials. You want to give them one clear angle. You don't want to be, oh, we're the company that does X and Y and Z, because otherwise you're not going to have a compelling case on your comparison page.
Yep.
You want to give them your feature comparison intel, anything that you have about all the features that you have and they don't, and the features that they have and you don't, as transparent as possible. If you have these, prepare that too, and the page outline as we are suggesting here with this example.
I like, even if someone watching is, say you're a product marketer and you're like, well, I'm also going to write the copy and design the page. You're going to do it all yourself. Like, I even think this process of writing out and just kind of outlining what your positioning theme is, right? Like what is the main theme of the page, and then also going through and just doing the page outline. before you go in and start designing a page is really important for anyone to do. So I think this brief's a great idea, even if you're doing it all yourself versus if you're outsourcing parts of it. I think it's it's smart to do this sort of brief.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to be working with a team, because aligning with a team in terms of brief before you go out and write a copy is going to save you so much time, because anybody that sees this, you can add your feedback, add comments to this, review it until it gets to a place where everybody's happy with, and then you just write a copy. And if the copy fits the brief, then hopefully you're not going to get a lot of reviewing done at that point. Yeah. And this is personal, but as a copywriter, there's nothing I hate more than drawn out reviewing stages where we're nitpicking words and we don't know, why do we have this section here? Should we move this section to the top? Should we kill this section? Should we talk about something else? And all of that disappears if you have a solid brief that everybody's approved.
Right on.
That's it. That's how you research and prepare briefs for your comparison pages. And the next step is the copywriting. So we can talk about that on the next episode.
Love it. All right. So this is great. So this first episode was all about the lead up, how to go about doing the research, creating the brief. Next episode, tune in because we're going to talk about copywriting, which if you've tuned into any previous episodes, we get into actual examples and looking at like do's and don'ts on some really great pages and some that don't necessarily hit the mark. So yeah, I'm looking forward. Tune into episode 2 and we'll talk about the second half of creating your competitive comparison page. Federico, thanks a lot as always. This was really enlightening. I love this breaking down the process. I think this is great. So yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Yeah, and for all of you watching, tune in to our next episode, like I mentioned, and obviously compared to what part of the Compete network. So if you are looking to also learn more about other topics of Compete, product marketing, anything like that, go check out the Compete network. There's a lot of great podcasts on there as well. Great series, courses, everything. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you on the next one.
See you guys.